So let's start having discussion regarding the recent issue that was created after the United States Operation Absolute Resolve. So whether it is a masterstroke or the violation of a global law. Why Venezuela is important from the global perspective. There are also the high amount of reserves of the gold and many other minerals that are important from the present day geopolitics, and that's why the Venezuela is an important country from the geopolitical perspective. That particular government was not considered as legitimate by many such countries. There are all both type of people. Some are pro Maduro, some are against Maduro, but at the same point of time they are talking about Venezuela. So this Venezuela has to be kept in center right now in this particular situation. Hello everyone, I'm Vishal Salsekar, and today we are going to cover a very important article and the developing series of events in the context of the Venezuelan crisis. Now, why I'm saying this is the developing set of crisis, because till now there has not been any final conclusion, and still the meetings are going on in the United Nations Security Council, and still the proceedings are going on in the US courts. But one issue that has been raised in the wake of this Venezuelan crisis is regarding the state sovereignty. That whether it is rightful for any specific country who is very much powerful has this right in order to invade any specific country's sovereignty and extract the leader who is the de facto leader of that particular country and extract that from that country and bring that to the country. And what type of precedence this particular event is setting from the upcoming global politics, because there are a lot of issues which are lingering right now, and this can cause a major series of escalations for the future. So let's start having discussion regarding the recent issue that was created after the United States Operation Absolute Resolve. So whether it is a masterstroke or the violation of a global law, that we are going to unpack in this particular discussion. So before discussing about the Operation Absolute Resolve and how it has impacted the global affairs, first we have to talk about why Venezuela is important from the global perspective. So why Venezuela matters today is because of this particular reason. This map or this particular type of table is depicting you regarding the oil reserves that the Venezuela is possessing presently. This is the data of 2024. But if you talk about roughly the amount of oil that is being possessed by Venezuela, it is at the first place with roughly 303 billion barrel, which are the reserves of the Venezuela. So this is basically billions of barrels which is possessed by Venezuela. And you can see all the other predominant countries which are the major countries producing the oils, they are having the lesser reserves as compared to the Venezuela, including even Saudi Arabia, Iran, Canada, Iraq, all these countries are following. So what does it tell? That Venezuela possesses one of the largest resources, I will say the de facto largest resources of the oil on earth. And apart from that, there are also the high amount of reserves of the gold and many other minerals that are important from the present day geopolitics. And that's why the Venezuela is an important country from the geopolitical perspective. Now, does that mean that every country which is having the access to mineral is going to face these type of consequences? So we have to understand and unpack a series of events that had happened and series of issues that were continuing with respect to Venezuela. So in order to understand that, there is already a decade-long crisis that was getting developed with the Venezuela. So when we are talking about the Venezuela, first thing is the economic collapse. So since 2013, from when there has been the rise of the present-day president Nicolas Maduro, there has been a series of economic issues that this particular country is facing. There has been severe corruption. There has been a lot of issues that the country is facing from within. But again, that does not give the right to any other country to invade and extract the leader just because that country is facing the economic issues. And now what about the masses? Masses are still facing the economic issue. It's not like that once US extracted, US Special Operations Forces or the SEALs have extracted Maduro, so this has resolved the economic issue. But yes, the economic collapse was going on because there was severe corruption. There were severe issues with respect to the drug trafficking that were also going on in that particular region. And that's why there were issues that were further developing on this particular context. After that, when we are talking about that more than 300 billion barrels of oil that is being possessed by Venezuela as its reserve. So now the oil production should be very, very high. But when the country is facing the large amount of instability, this is going to create a difficulty with respect to the amount of the oil that can be extracted, because a reserve does not guarantee you that you will be able to produce this much amount of oil. So that means that if there is instability, there is severe corruption, there is drug trafficking going on, this is going to impact the oil output, and that is also visible. So roughly from 3.5 million barrels per day, which was being produced during roughly 1990s, and that production has been reduced to roughly 9 lakh barrels per day by late 2025. This means, yes, because of corruption, because of economic mismanagement, because of a lot of issues, there has been reduction of the oil production. But that again does not give guarantee that there is the responsibility only on the leader, or there are major crises that are going on. And even if the leader is corrupt, then still it's not legitimate for a country to invade that. Again, I am going to re-emphasize that point. Next is the hyperinflation. Now, above two issues, if you try to relate and if you try to identify that what type of consequences this particular above issues are going to create: corruptions, economic mismanagement, unemployment, the high food prices, all these will lead to the situation of hyperinflation, where the currency's value is going to get declined. The currency's value will be negligible, and as a result of that, a lot of things will not be affordable to the masses. And ultimately, who is suffering? Is it Maduro? No. It is the Venezuelan people who are facing the crisis during this entire time period. And then comes the 2019, and then comes the 2024. In 2019, after the re-election of Maduro, that particular government was not considered as legitimate by many such countries. So many countries have taken back the recognition to the Maduro government. And even in 2024 election, recently when the elections had taken place, that elections were also being contested by many such global actors, that these elections were rigged, these elections were not transparent. But all these things, if you talk about, yes, they are the decade-long crisis, but they are the internal crisis that the Venezuela is facing. Ultimately, the burnt has been faced by the people of Venezuela and not exactly by the leader. And you have extracted right now the leader of Venezuela and not providing certain alternative from within the country. That means now the aspirations are imperialistic. And this is reviving the things that were started before the World War I, jahan pe the countries had started taking control over different economically important region. And that's why this can have the serious consequences. Now, what was done in this particular operation in 2026 on the 3rd of January, Operation Absolute Resolve, that was taken into consideration, right? And once the Operation Absolute Resolve was taken, this particular operation was a precise military mission in the Caracas, which is the capital city. And in that particular situation, what they have done, the naval seals went there, the special operation forces went there, they have extracted Maduro along with his wife. They were taken to the New York City and presented in front of the New York court. So basically, you have extracted the president of a country, may not be legitimate as per you, but you have extracted that, and you are now presenting that individual against the court by giving certain indemnity charges, certain charges that were being put against him. What are the charges that were put by United States against the leader of Venezuela? It is the narco-terrorism conspiracy. That means that particular individual is responsible for the state-based terror organization or narco-terror organization. Not exactly terror, it is the narco-terror, which is the drug trafficking related things that are being done by him. Other than that, the cocaine importation conspiracy, again related to the drug trafficking. Next is regarding conspiracy to possess the machine gun and the destructive assets. Now, all these things, whatever charges are being laid against that individual, that were first presented to the court before the Christmas time period in a sealed envelope, and then now they are being opened and they are being highlighting that these are the charges that we are putting against the Venezuelan president. Now, in this particular situation, once you have extracted the president, now there is a power vacuum. So the power vacuum has been filled by the vice president, now declared as the president for the time being. So the president, Delcy Rodriguez, is the president. But again, right now, who is suffering? It is the people of the Venezuela. Now, talking about why the intervention has been done. Is it only because of the drug trafficking? The answer has to be seen from the broader objectives that the United States wanted to achieve from this particular intervention. The first is regarding the resurrection of the Monroe Doctrine in the form of the Monroe Doctrine. which is basically the Donald Trump's version of the Monroe Doctrine. Again, if you have seen, we have also developed a video regarding the United States national security strategy, and in that I have highlighted that what United States is now going to focus upon, what during the time period of the James Monroe in 1823 they were focusing upon, making sure the sphere of influence in the Americas. So in the American region right now, which is the power which is gaining predominance? It is the China, which is either the largest or the second largest trade partner of the majority of the countries, whether you talk about Caribbean or whether you talk about the South American countries. And that's why now through the Monroe Doctrine or the resurrection of the Monroe Doctrine, what they wanted, they again want to ensure that the Americas should remain only their sphere of influence. There should not be any external power which should be intervening. And again, Americas are filled with a lot of resources. Right now it is for the oil. Next time, what about the lithium triangle? So they are the countries also form the major part of the South America. So if these things are going to get continued, and recently if you might have seen the remarks from the side of the President of United States of America, those statements were talking about that we are also eyeing on the Greenland. So this is a domino effect that may follow. That may follow the series of events from the alternative blocks also, and that may lead to the situation of the instability in the global level. Talking about the China factor, yes, China factor is one such predominant. Already we have talked about that what China is playing an important role. And since there are a lot of sanctions on Venezuela, majority of the companies are not able to extract oil from Venezuela. And in this case, the Chinese companies are going there. They are establishing the joint venture. So roughly 80% of the Venezuelan oil presently is being bought by China. China is providing economic support. China is providing support through the Belt and Road Initiative. And through all these things, what China is trying to ensure? China is trying to ensure the dominant position. Along with that, not only in Venezuela, in many other countries of the South America and the Caribbean, through its Belt and Road Initiative, through its checkbook and the economic diplomacy, China is trying to take the control. So that's why China is also one such prominent factor when it comes to the intervention. Next is regarding the control over the oil resources. So before 1976, when this particular resources of oil were allowed to be explored by many of countries, then the United States के private corporations were doing the exploration. But 1976 में they were being nationalized and these companies are now removed, and that's why the United States thinks that it is the loss of the oil and natural resources का main hub जो था, main जो source है, that particular thing is being snatched. And that's why the President Trump has even given the statement talking about that you have made the losses for the United States and now you have to do the reparations for those particular losses. So this is also one such issue. The last issue is regarding the countering narco-terrorism, which is made as the primary issue, which is also equated with the waging war against a country, because this particular thing has been utilized in order to wage a war against that particular region, extracting the leader from that particular region. So countering the narco-terrorism. Yes, narco-terrorism is a major issue presently the world is facing. But then there are other issues also. And if these type of issues are being highlighted as the national security issue or the issues to hinder the sovereignty of any country, what about if the China follows the similar step? What about if the Russia follows the similar step? So these are the issues that has to be taken into consideration in the foreign policy domain in order to identify that what may be the consequences that will be followed after this. Now, talking about the legal and the international law related controversy. So right now we do have the international governance structures. Still the United Nations is surviving, though there are reforms that are being proposed, but still it is a surviving body. And yesterday only they are talking about, now there has been discussion started in the United Nations Security Council regarding this type of the change of power in Venezuela. Now there is Article 2.4 of the United Nations Charter. What this particular article talks about, that use of force against a sovereign nation's or sovereign state's leader without explicit self-defense justification. So if you are utilizing this, the charter is preventing कि भाई आपको restrain रखना चाहिए. You should not be utilizing force in any manner and against the leader without the explicit self-defense justification. Now, what justification has been provided? That the narco-terrorism is creating an issue or waging a war against the United States of America. That's why it is our responsibility in order to prevent that war. So this is being talked about. So loose interpretation and very distant interpretation has been done. Article 51 says that state-associated narco-terrorism activities constitutes a security threat. Yes, it is a security threat. But to what extent? To what extent it is providing you the power in order to invade any specific territory, that has to be seen. And this is what is being talked about right now, that without the United Nations Security Council's approval, if you are going to any other country, invading its sovereignty, preventing that particular person getting due right to get representation, that is also one such major issue. Now, United Nations withdrew the recognition of the United States withdrew the recognition of the Nicolas Maduro. Yes, this is there, and many other states have done. Roughly 50 states have followed the similar type of process, but that's the recognition that has been withdrawn. Apart from that, the Congress oversight, which is generally the oversight the Congress is putting on certain leaders, जहां पर there are chances कि they are going to ensure कि wage किया जाए किसी वॉर को अगेंस्ट एनी स्पेसिफिक कंट्रीज लीडर. बट दैट कांग्रेस परमिशन हैज नॉट आल्सो बीन sought in this particular case, which is making that are the people were taken into confidence, or the representative of people were taken into confidence in this particular situation. And if not, then the absolutist leaders can come and create their own type of aura with the type of policy decisions they want to take, and they can make the world destabilized. Talking about what is the response from the major countries like the Russia, like China, and even South Africa, they have said the intervention is the violation of sovereignty in setting the bad precedents. Because if you are doing this, so what we are going to do maybe in future, that is also justified in that particular case, but then you will be having your own set of arguments. Then the United Nations Security General, he also said the way it has been carried out is not good, and this is making as a dangerous precedent in the international law. So all these type of things, whether the withdrawal of the recognition from the side of United States or from the side of Congress, or these particular parties are criticizing, these are the issues. Now, talking about what will be the consequences of this, because see, it is a series of development. We have to see that what is going to be followed after a few days with respect to this particular case, right? But then right now the region is suffering, region is facing the economic crisis, region is facing the energy crisis, region is facing a lot of issues like the corruption and all, and that region needs stabilization. But in the need of stabilization, if you are going to intervene again in that particular region and put your form of government, then it is going to do the further intervention wala thing, and ultimately people of Venezuela are not going to get any due rights, right? So that's why the global energy market, since Venezuela is not producing much amount of oil on a daily basis, that's why there will not be immediate shock. But what about if there will be monopolization of that particular oil by one country? It is going to set a wrong precedent. So the global energy market crisis may be there in the long term. Next, talking about Venezuela, Venezuela is facing economic crisis. They are seeing corruption. There is the hunger, there is deprivation, there is malnutrition, a lot of instability is there. So all these things are causing that right now there is a need to ensure that stabilization is done. There are all both type of people. Some are pro-Maduro, some are against Maduro. But at the same point of time, they are talking about Venezuela. So this Venezuela has to be kept in center right now in this particular situation. Talking about human rights concern, again, a very important thing, because you have given the context of the human rights only. The narco-terrorism and other things are preventing the rights of the individuals, right? And you have said that the people are also fed up with Maduro. So in that case, the human rights has to be taken into consideration. If you are going to do these type of intervention, if you are trying to govern from your side on the people of the Venezuela, then it is going to again impact the human rights of those particular people. Lastly, regarding the regional geopolitics, with which particular country now it is going in direct confrontation? It is going to directly impacting China, because China is one of the largest trade partner in that particular region, specifically with respect to Venezuela also, where the Chinese companies are extracting the large amount of oils. So it is also going to impact that. Other than that, it is also going to impact the geopolitics, because now there will be chances that there may be further annexation of the territories from different countries, where these countries, like whether China or Russia, are thinking that they are having the disputing claims, they can also go for following the similar type of precedent, giving the national security threat. So what you are doing, basically, you are creating the wrong precedent. You are setting the wrong precedents, which is making the world bodies just a mere spectator, and the world politics just as a power politics, right? Now, talking about what was the India's stand, what India wanted to convey. See, again, India is right now calibrating its response, but India is seeing these particular things very, very carefully. Right now, through the official statements we have released, that we want a peaceful resolution. We do not subscribe to this particular opinion to extract any individual who is the head of the state and that particular individual is extracted without giving any type of intimation, without having any of the solid proofs, right? But at the same point of time, what India is seeing, peaceful resolution, dialogue, and the stability in the region. So India is trying to take the moderate stand in this particular case. Now, when we talk about the trade interest of India, Venezuela ke saath we are not doing much trade, but yes, the oil ke saath we are trying to ensure the tier 2 diplomacy or the track to diplomacy, where we are trying to go for alternative policies jahan par we can extract the oil, we can also ensure helping the India's energy market with respect to the Venezuelan oil. Now that is also going to get impacted to some extent, right? Other than that, the rupee and the Venezuelan currency related trade, that can also be one such thing. So rupee based trade can also get hampered because of these type of things. Now talking about the strategic purpose, finally India talks about the respect for the sovereignty and peaceful resolution of all those type of disputes जो कि चले आ रहे हैं at the global level. So this is setting a wrong precedent. This is setting a precedent. Even if the intentions are right, still the way this particular thing has been carried out, this is making a statement that right now, whatever the large power wants, the way they want to tweak, they can tweak. And that's why we are seeing certain statements which are just to see at the global level. It is not that much like the statements, things that are going on right now. But one thing is very, very clear, that right now the geopolitics is going in the situation of flux, and we have to see what is going to come in forward. So this particular issue is very, very important from the perspective of the geopolitics, the developing of the events in this particular regard. And once there will be certain concrete aspects that will emerge from whether the United Nations Security Council or whether from any other things, and what type of consequences are going to be emerged from this, that have to be seen in future. But still it has set to some extent a wrong precedent by the manner in which this is being carried out. So I hope you might have got certain kind of idea regarding this entire conflict, and we will see in future what type of developments are taking place regarding this. So I hope this topic is now clear to you. So thank you very much. We'll meet again in the another set of enriching discussion regarding the international relations. Thank you.